Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam. Samantha. We were going to call me Samantha.
And we're
No,
Friday Night
we have to start that over. We have to
Games.
start that over.
It's Friday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. Let's get together and play a ton.
John isn't here tonight, but the two of us want to immerse you into our love of the hobby by educating and entertaining you through our board game adventures. Our podcast lands every Friday, and we create content for Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. This episode is sponsored by TabletopRenaissance.ca, located in our hometown of Windsor, Ontario. Check out their web store at TabletopRenaissance.ca for your board game and tabletop miniature needs. On today's show, I'm joined by my lovely wife, Samantha, and we're going to discuss playing board games with our significant others, which may be a completely different perspective from her perspective, where your significant other is not really into board games. At the end of this podcast, you might gain some tips on how to get your significant other, like Samantha, to play board games with you. She's looking at me right now. Hi, Samantha. Thanks for being on the show at such short notice.
Thanks for finally asking me 2 years into hosting this podcast.
You're welcome. You know you have to play board games to get on the podcast, right?
I have played a handful of board games in my life. At least 4.
As you stare at me behind shelves and shelves of board games.
I'm sure I can recognize a name or two from the shelves behind you.
Yeah, some of them might even be yours in the corner. So where can the listeners find you? Do you have a social media presence at all?
I do have a social media presence for my business, which is Strong Body Yoga and Fitness Studio in Windsor. And our social media handle is Strong Body YF. And that's mostly yoga and fitness images and videos. I also have personal accounts, but that's mostly selfies of myself or pictures of the dog.
Right. And I actually built your on-demand website. So if you want some yoga videos, you could check out ondemand.strongbodystudio.ca.
This is true. Yep.
And you can get a pretty good workout. 7-day trial, right? Not paid at all, but anything to help out my wife, make some money. Cool. So you mentioned the type of social media experiences. Did you do anything in the past? Did you ever have like a blog or anything?
I did at one time.
You know what I really love? I love how you're cringing that I'm bringing up things that aren't on your paper.
I wasn't prepared for that question. Yeah, I did at one time have a blog, but it is presently defunct. Do people still have blogs these days?
Yeah, people do. People still have WordPress sites. In fact, I think like people will have like a WordPress site plus a podcasting website. Podcasting is like the new WordPress. So most people will have like Podbean, and then Podbean uses like a WordPress plugin, basically. Fun fact.
Fun facts.
Yeah, I do miss your baking blog, though, because I remember that one time you were baking, like, cinnamon buns every day for, like, 2 months.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to get the perfect cinnamon bun.
Yeah, we gained, like, 20 pounds that year.
It was a good year.
Yeah. Okay, well, now that we got that out of the way, and that was improv, Samantha. Okay, here we go. So let's just get this out in the open. For years, I've been collecting lots and lots of board games.
I see that, yeah. I've noticed.
Yeah, you noticed through bank account statements. So I've been collecting tons and tons of board games, like all sorts, and not just games targeted at me. How come you don't want to play anything with me?
I didn't realize that this was a therapy session.
It is, yeah. All our podcasts are therapy sessions.
Is this actually being recorded for the podcast, or are you sending this to a psychologist?
What do you consider, Kevin?
Why don't I want to play board games with you? It's not that I don't want to play board games with you in particular. It's that I just don't want to play board games. I'm a very competitive person, and in my spare time, I don't want to feel that stress of competition. So that's why I tend to avoid board games. And the process of learning the games is quite cumbersome and quite boring for me. Like, I just want to jump right into it.
So you'd rather play a game you already know?
Yes.
Or you want to be like the 4th or 5th person in a game where everyone else knows what they're doing, so they can teach you pretty quickly?
Yes. I want 7 people in the game to already already know what they're doing, and then
You can ask
I
people
can
questions.
just easily follow along.
What about some of your friends? Like, do they like? Speaking of like your close friends, like they're not really board game people either. Some of them are.
Some of them are, but we don't tend to play board games with each other. No.
But even if they are board game people, they're not.
Are you a board game person? Like you're like an extreme board game person.
Yeah,
I
true.
have friends who I would consider board game people if I didn't include you in that.
Yeah, I'm like the math term. I'm an outlier. I'm to the extreme side of that, right?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes we don't have similar tastes though in our board games. So I prefer things that are like a little more like word games. I also like games where there's like acting or drawing involved, whereas that's not really your jams.
Like I'll play them.
Yeah,
It's
you
just...
play them, but that's not what you prefer.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Like when I go shopping, I'm not like staring at the word games thinking like, "Oh man, I can't wait to give this one to the table."
Exactly.
But I mean, I feel like a year into our podcast, I was a little more open to getting games that everyone can play. But then when I bought all those games, COVID happened. So then
Wah, wah, wah. Sad trombone.
If you're an avid listener, you know that. I say it all the time, right?
It's okay. They'll be revived again. Party games will be a thing soon.
I doubt it. Okay, so if you listeners are unaware, I help run this podcast along with John, who couldn't make it tonight, but that's okay. So we have our other co-host, Samantha, which maybe if you like Samantha, give us a shout out and we'll put her on the show all the time.
Woo! Kevin, can you put in some cheering sounds in the background?
And this is a board game podcast, and I'm into board games and probably spend way too much money on the hobby, confirmed by you, Samantha.
Yes. Yeah, the board game budget steadily goes up every year, yes.
But like we said earlier, you're no stranger to board games either. What games did you grow up playing? So let's try and define you as a board game person.
I mean, what games I grew up playing, I don't know that would necessarily define me as a board game person, but we had the games that we had were from this cache of board games that we found in the attic of my dad's old office building. And
forbidden games.
Somebody had left them there, so we claimed them. So I remember
Claimed them or stole them?
Is there a difference?
Took them?
Yes, we took them to our home.
How old
Yes.
were you?
I was probably around 4 or 5 at the time. But we continued to play those games, and I might have some of them actually behind you. Like Parcheesi, that was from the old attic cache of games. Battleship was another one that I really liked playing. We played Clue, but it was hard because you have to find somebody else to play with you. Mm-hmm. And we also used to play with my family Trivial Pursuit, the Genesis edition, but that was when I was like under the age of 10. So try answering those questions as a child.
Right.
Pretty impossible. When I was with like my cousins as a kid, we would play games like the Grape Escape. Do you remember that one? It was like you had like grapes that were molded out of Play-Doh, and then they went through this like maze, and sometimes they got smashed or they got like rolled up
I
between
totally had
gears.
that game. I actually have. We had a lot of board games.
That was a
growing
fun
up.
game.
Yeah.
So we used to play that with them. There was also a game that you might not be familiar with called Pretty Pretty Princess. I don't know if you know that one, but
I do, actually.
Did you have that
yeah,
game?
I was a pretty princess. I'm sure you can also confirm that.
You didn't actually have that game though, did you?
No. I think so. I think our friends had it. We had like my mom had like a doppelganger couple we used to hang out with, and I'm pretty sure they had it.
Yeah, that was a fun game because you would just go around the board collecting jewelry from the center.
Ooh.
And the person, once you collected, I think, a ring and a necklace and a bracelet and the crown, then you were the pretty princess. So it was pretty fun as a child.
Pretty fun.
It was. Pretty hilarious.
Well, that's a pretty interesting fact there.
And then like older, like university or like late high school and into university, we played Cranium a lot. And that was always fun because I told you I like drawing games and acting and words. Like it literally has everything that I like about a game. It has trivia, it has drawing, it has acting, and it has words. Like how could you not love that game?
Yeah, Cranium, we actually discussed on Bridge City Board Gamers podcast. I brought up Scribblish, and I couldn't bring up Scribblish without talking about Cranium, since your family used to play that a lot. And
Yes.
I got I learned that from your family.
Yeah, that was such a fun game, and I haven't played it in a while, but I would love to play it again. So that's the kind of things that I used to play, but I do kind of, like I said, tend to kind of veer towards trivia games or word games.
To define it, you're into word games, trivia games. You like Scrabble. You like Letter Jam. When I introduced you to that,
I did like Letter Jam.
so this is a little bit of a side here, but our first board game experience was playing what?
Domain.
No one can see you cringing and looking down right now.
So that was actually part of the cache of board games from the attic. And I used to play it by myself because it's a 2-player game and you just basically put down tiles. It's kind of like
Wait,
Tetris.
why did you only play it by yourself?
Because nobody would play with me.
Why is that?
Because I don't have friends. So it's kind of like Tetris where you put down pieces. And I thought that I was good at the game, but turns out you're better. And you are better at all of any sort of like strategy type of game where you have to kind of think and plan out where you're going to put things. Yeah, you are better at all those games. So
But you know what I'm not
move on.
good at?
Next question.
You know I'm not not competitive at all, everybody. You know what game you're good at though?
Oh, I know. Monster Mash.
Yeah, and
Monster Mash. That was on your YouTube channel because we did film it. You brought me downstairs
Halloween.
spontaneously for a Halloween Twitch stream and told me to play Monster Mash. And turns out I still got it.
I told you. I demanded, forced you down there.
Yeah,
No, you
kind of-
offered
kind of
offered
did,
to play
actually.
it. If we played it, you'd play it. But
Yeah,
you
I
really
don't
did.
remember it
You
that
really
way.
did kick our butt though. And John was like super shocked at this skill.
Yeah, that's the only skill that I have in my life. Like I'm
Wow. Kate,
I'm
you're
No, I'm incredibly skilled at playing Monster Mash. Like I'm not going to even be humble about it. I'm really good at it. Other things in life, not so much.
Yeah, you know what? If you're a listener who ever wants to challenge my wife at Monster Mash, throw it up there. Monster Mash challenge.
I'm in.
She'll beat you like 100%.
Definitely check out the video on the YouTube channel.
yeah.
It has, as of this recording, a whopping 46 views. So
Tiles are flying. It's actually one of our highly watched videos. It's probably more watched than our regular content on there, which is kind of hilarious. All right. Well, that was fun. Okay, well, let's get back into it again. So you've been to a board game store probably to buy me a game?
oh, I've definitely bought you games from board game
I
stores.
know.
Yeah.
And you watch me play, or more than likely you watch me set up.
Plan for, learn the rules for, all of that stuff for games. Yeah.
Yeah, it only takes like 10 minutes usually, right?
Right.
What is not appealing about those games?
Well, first of all,
to
just
you?
watching you try to learn the rules to the games and be like, I always gotta learn the rules.
Well, no one else wants to do it, so
Exactly. And you always bite the bullet because you're a good guy like that. Take one for the team. But it's a lot of work learning the rules. Some of these games are ridiculous rule books. So I think that the amount of time that it takes to learn it is probably a bit off-putting. Also, sometimes the time to play, like if you suggest me to play a game with you, I'll like kind of surreptitiously look at the box and be like, how long is this going to take?
Can you,
And then I
wait, hold on,
double
hold on.
whatever it says on the box.
Can you? How do you? Oh, you look at the time on the box.
On the
I
box,
was
yeah.
thinking you just analyze the pictures on the box.
No,
and then
I'll
you're
look
like,
at the
"Whoa, I
box.
don't
They
think
all
this is
say
gonna-"
have time play. I can like look at some right now on the wall behind you and be like, well, okay, that's gonna take. It says an hour. That means it's gonna take 2.5 hours.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like you look at the time on the box and you're like, is that the time for me to learn the game and play it, or is that just the time it takes me to play it once I understand the whole game?
Yeah,
Right.
it's a little deceiving. Also, some of the games that you have, and I don't know if it's just the games that you choose or if it's the industry as a whole, but some of them are just like not super appealing in terms of their theme and their art.
This is a very common problem in our industry.
You were very excited when you brought home a poster of Epic Spell Wars from one of the board game conventions.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, isn't this so cool? And I looked at it and my face was just like, nope.
Yeah, it's
But
really.
I didn't say anything. I was just like, yeah, please don't put that up anywhere in our house.
That's actually really funny because it's a pretty gruesome picture, and later on I'm like, oh yeah, maybe this isn't really the greatest thing to hang. But I originally made the shelves to put like that picture on the shelves, and then later on my nieces were over, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't even have this out.
Yeah.
So then that never came out again.
Yeah, it's like graphic.
It's like cartoony.
It's cartoons, but sorry, when I said graphic, I meant graphic as in drawing, but it's also graphic as in like violent and a little bit gratuitous in terms of
which
the
is
art.
hilarious because one time our little nieces wanted to come and see the board game collection. I'm like, yeah, sure. And then they're like, what's this picture? And I'm like, oh, it's nothing. And I have to like toss it away. And they're like, well, we want to see it. It looks beautiful because it looks beautiful. Like if you didn't know it was violent, it actually looks really nice.
There's a lot of like swords and knights and superheroes just generally in board games.
And you just want to play Pretty Pretty Princess.
And I just want to play Pretty Pretty Princess. No, but that just doesn't super appeal to me. But there are some games that you have brought home that I have found like, oh, that looks cute.
Oh, what might that be?
So games that I like think the art wise looks good.
Or the theme appeals or the art appeals to you.
Okay, so definitely you just brought home Honey Buzz and you were playing Honey Buzz. Like I looked at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's so cute. It's bees working.
Yeah, and the honey is actually like these little things that look like gummy bears.
Yeah, it looks like actual like little spilled droplets of honey.
You probably could substitute it with like gummy bears and it'd be like totally acceptable.
And I like the calico because it's cats.
You're not really a cat person though.
I'm not a cat person, but I like cute stuff.
Yeah.
Sushi Go, obviously, if we're talking about cute things. But then things that like kind of go off of the realm of cuteness. In terms of like themes, Athenium or Athenaeum, I'm not sure 100%.
I'm not sure what it is either.
Pronunciation of that word. We'll go with Athenaeum because it sounds more sophisticated. About a library of books, like just generally that theme definitely appeals to me.
For if the listeners don't know, because it's not a really popular game.
Oh, you should play it, everyone.
Yeah, it is a really good game. The theme is a mystic library, so think like Harry Potter magic-ish library, but it's not really about magic. It's more about collecting collections of books of the same topic.
Yeah.
And then you get points at the end. It's actually really fun.
It's a fun game. Yeah, we collect books.
It's really well done.
I liked or was excited to play Mysterium Park when you brought it home because I liked Mysterium, and then you sold that one to me as like a simplified version of Mysterium. I'm like, oh, simpler. I already mostly know how to play it, and I really liked the art for Mysterium.
Right.
And the theme of it being a spirit that comes to tell you who killed them, right?
Right.
Is that
Yes, you're trying to figure out where the spirit is. And it's like location. I can't remember everything, but it's like location, person, and item.
It's something like that, similar to Clue, but like more like mystical and a bit steampunk.
I mean, I'm just going to describe a game with another game. I mean, it's Dixit, where you have these picture cards, you hand a card, and that's like your clue to try and figure out. And yeah, the Mysterium Park is the art is mystical. Mm-hmm. And I could see that. I mean, it's appealing to me too.
Yeah, I like the art and I like the idea behind that game. Other games that I thought that might be interesting to play, but I never played were Brass Birmingham, but mostly I just wanted to read about the historical figures in their manual.
Which you did.
Which I did, yeah.
Because they're the same historical figures that were in Lancashire. So when you were reading that, they're the exact same characters again.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
you know them. Because when we were playing Lancashire, you were actually reading that book. You didn't even care about the game. You were just...
No, I wasn't interested. I mean, I was interested in the theme of the game because it's like Victorian inventors during the Industrial Revolution. So obviously I found that interesting, but I never played the game because it looked a little bit cumbersome. Also, Tapestry about civilizations. I liked the art in that one and just the concept of making civilizations. But again, never played the game.
Well, hold on. Okay, so why didn't you play the game? I had Tapestry set up for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, you were playing it by yourself, so.
Yeah, but I mean, if you wanted to play it, all you had to do... So we're trying to solve this problem here. Although I don't know if you'd really like that game.
I think you told me that I wouldn't like it.
Wow, I gatekeeped you?
You said I'm like, oh wow, it's about civilizations. That's kind of cool. And you're like, yeah, you wouldn't like it. Oh, okay.
And that's the real truth why you don't play games with you right there. No, I just thought you wouldn't like it because there's a million rules.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And the
something
minute I have to
like.
spend an hour explaining you the game, I don't know if you're gonna like it.
Right.
That would be my gatekeeping. Instead of saying that, I guess I just said no. Big mistake. And that's why I sleep on the ground, everybody.
I like Magic Maze as well. And that one I bought for you specifically so you could play with your friends because you don't talk in that game. So, like, if you play it after 9 p.m. while I'm in bed, then I don't have to hear you guys.
Wow, I'm never playing a game you buy me ever again. Okay, well, so what stops you from, I guess we kind of got a little bit into it, but is there any like direct reasons that stop you from, wanting to play a game because I have games set up all the time.
Right. Currently on your solo gameplay table, you have Marble Champions.
Yes. Guardians of the Galaxy expansion.
Sure.
You don't even care.
I don't. Just looking at that one, it does not look appealing to me. Not just because it's Marvel and I don't really care about superheroes, but also just any of those living card games where there's a.
I like how you use living card games like you know what it is. You were asking me yesterday what type of game it
listeners
was.
don't need to know that.
You don't need to make yourself. A living card game, just so you know, is a game that plays out with a lot of cards like Magic, and every card has a different rule.
Right. Yes. I was about to go on explaining that.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
I
Go ahead.
did my
No,
research
you
for this
can,
episode.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. So it's those games with cards that have descriptions on them. Anyway, each of the card has like a different skill or a different power for what you can do within the game. Those don't appeal to me. So like Marvel Champions, Arkham Horror, Magic, any of those games, not really interested. Also, any legacy game. Like, don't make me play this game for the next 10 years.
Wait, why is it 10 years? It's only 10 games.
Okay, well, whatever length of time, I don't want to like continue playing a single game. I would like to restart and maybe try again from scratch. So
Okay.
I prefer not to play a legacy game. I've never played a legacy game, so I'm just assuming that I don't want to play it.
Yeah, I don't know what you're. I mean, so the idea behind like a legacy game, like imagine you had Clue and you really like. I know you like Clue. Or 13 Dead End Drive. We're going to go with 13 Dead End Drive because you love 13 Dead End Drive.
Yeah.
Imagine
I
they
don't wanna
made
be
one
playing that
where
forever, though.
every character that gets killed off, like, or you find the culprit. I think you find the killer. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so every time you find the killer, that character may be removed from the game, and then they add in another mechanic. So that's kind of what a legacy game is. So, like, for instance, if they did that with 13 Dead End Drive, my guess is that you would love it. Probably not now, because you'd be like, well, I have to play this, like, 10 more times. But back when you were a kid, you probably would have loved it because you played 13 Dead End Drive a lot.
Yeah, no.
Okay, well, I mean, the whole idea is to just get it to the table more often, and that's like legacy games help you do that. When you look at like a collector like myself, it's hard to get games to the table, but when you have a
That's
legacy
true.
game, it helps you get it to the table.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
Yeah.
point to make. So they are simultaneously getting you to play their game more often and getting you to buy different versions of it. So it is a good marketing strategy.
It is actually a really good marketing strategy.
So those games are the games where I would be like, nah, I'm good. Also, I'm not a huge fan of like social deduction games in a group setting. So when we have like a big group of people, it's like, do you guys want to play werewolf? And people are like, yeah, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on that too. I do like social deduction games, but
I'm so terrible at those games, and that's not the only reason I don't like them. But
right.
but that's one of the reasons. It's like I can't even like act and pretend I'm not the werewolf. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm the werewolf, guys. Like, is the game over now? Okay, good. Like, we're done.
Yeah, some people really get into the acting part of it. And
I do
I know
not.
you don't,
I
but
do
you
not.
you really like the competition ones that revolve around like trivia or knowledge or letters.
Yeah, so like
spelling.
acting that way, sure, but like so like acting in Cranium, okay, but I don't want to like have to keep up this whole charade of me
Charade.
being a
You
particular
don't have to be
character.
good at it. You can just
I'm
end
not
the
good
game.
at it.
You can just end the game if you wanted to.
That's the problem.
Okay, well, I don't know if that answered any of those questions, but sweet. So we kind of were talking a little bit about this. What games have we played together in the last few years of this podcast? Or so within the last 2 years, what have we played together? And then is there anything that you consider a favorite of those games? So together we played Letter Jam, Villainous, 13 Dead End Drive, which, I mean, technically you could throw that out because it's your game and whatever. Wingspan, the game. Pret-a-Porter, Space Team, Sacred Rights, Calico.
Athenaeum,
Yes.
Deep Sea Adventure, Medium,
Oh,
Wavelength,
Wavelength. Yep.
King Domino. We played Machikoro. I think that was probably the first game that got you into buying a bunch of board games.
That and Risk Legacy.
And Risk, yeah.
But
Which
you
we
never
didn't play. I didn't
played
play
that,
Risk.
yeah.
That might be it from the ones that I'm looking at on the shelf. Did we play Parks together?
I don't think you ever played
No,
Parks.
I don't think I did. Of course, Codenames.
Right. There's a bunch of games maybe we played. I mean, like Resistance. You've also played. I don't think you played Coup, have you?
I have not played Coup. I have played the Pandemic.
Regular Pandemic. We played that on vacation with your family once.
Zombie Dice.
Zombie Dice, right?
So yeah, so of those games, what are my favorites?
Yeah, like what did you enjoy? I guess we basically just listed all the games you've ever played in 2 years with me. What?
I'm sure there's more.
Oh, yeah, right. Which ones were your favorites?
So I like Letter Jam again because I like word games. That took us a minute to figure out how to play.
I actually think that game is super hard to figure out, like how to play, because I remember
It was tricky to
so
learn
we
how to
played
play
that with your friends
at a board game cafe.
the last day we could ever go out before COVID.
Yes.
Literally the weekend that everything shut down.
Yep.
It was one of your friends' birthdays. And it was funny because it took us forever to figure out how to play it. And then I ended up buying it later. And then me and you still played it. And it still took me forever to
we still
figure
had to
out
learn
how to play it. Yeah.
But I liked it because I liked that different kind of concept of that word scramble idea, which is what that particular game is. Villainous, I thought it was great, probably just because it's like
Disney.
Disney.
The theme really got you
yeah,
there.
the theme got me in that one. But the game itself, the gameplay also kept me there. So I am pretty sure I was the one that picked Villainous when we played that game originally.
Yeah, probably.
Machikoro I liked because it was cute. So when you showed me that game, I'm like, oh, it's cute.
Yeah,
Settle
I mean,
down.
like when you think about the first games I purchased, like Machikoro, I purchased, but then in quotes, right? It was Machikoro, Risk Legacy, Sushi Go, and then later on I bought a bunch more. But those three were like the first ones, and I actually bought those in mind of you because I'm like,
you're
you're
so
gonna
sweet.
love the art, and the theme will pull
Obviously,
you in.
how do you not love the art in Sushi Go?
Oh
It's
my God,
like
the sushi's all
cute,
smiling.
adorable sushi. Like, hello.
Wow. Okay.
But also, I liked the concept of the economy game in Machikoro. It's like a better, I guess the first time I played it, I was like, oh, this is way better than Monopoly or something, which is the only other economy game that I would have had a knowledge of. I liked King Domino as well, which I mentioned because the simplicity of it. I was like, oh, I could just like take this to a coffee shop and play it with my friends while we talk and like catch up.
Yeah, it's not as you're playing it, but it isn't like as intricate. Like I think
Yeah,
actually
it doesn't-
Sushi Go's harder to play because you have to be always counting everything in front of you.
Yeah,
Right.
It doesn't. That one, King Domino, doesn't take as many brain cells, but it's like cool. Conceptually, it's a good game. So
Right.
it's basically a tile placement game. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a tile placement game,
Yeah.
and you're trying to score points by placing the tiles, getting the similar areas. You're basically building these areas that are worth points.
Yeah. So enjoyed that game. I also like Sacred Rights, which you and John wrote me into playing because you needed 3 people.
Sad story. That company, Story Machine Games, is no longer a company, which is really sad because
Oh.
that game is really good.
Yeah, that was a really good game. So they're not selling it anymore.
I think they're done selling it. They had a sale about a month ago with all
And
their
that-
games
they
for
have
50%
no more
off.
left.
Yeah.
So we have one of the only
We have one of-
remaining copies
yeah.
of Sacred Rights.
You want it? $1 million.
That was a good game, though.
That was actually a really good game, and it's sad that the
It did
company
have
folded.
a component of social deduction, but mostly like a storytelling type.
It was mostly storytelling, and that's why they make their name was Story Machine Games. Their
Because they
basis,
make storytelling games.
right? You got
Which,
it.
yeah, I'm not usually good at those games, but it was kind of fun to play it. I think it would be more. We only played it with 3 people, but that particular game would have been more fun with other people. But unfortunately, the listeners now can't get that game, so.
Well, you can. Maybe it's available on their website. Just buy it because you will be impressed.
Yeah. Now the demand for it's gonna spike.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The 30 listeners. Sorry.
And I like the game too that you mentioned because it's
Right.
co-op and it was super easy to play.
Yeah, that's kind of like the King Domino aspect where you're saying you're at a table and it's like an activity. You're just
Yeah.
playing cards.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. So I don't want to be too deeply involved into it. Yeah, so those are I liked most of those games actually that you mentioned that we played. So obviously you did a good job at curating the games that you were introducing me to and inviting me to the table to join.
Has there ever been a game I made you play you didn't like?
We played Pret-a-Porter together.
This is off the cuff.
And
You trying to be nice over there?
no.
It's all right.
I don't think you made me play it, but you're like, oh, you might like it because it's like fashion. I'm like, I don't really care for fashion, but okay. But that one is more of an economy game. I just found obviously wasn't going to learn the rules to play the game. If we're going to play a game together, I'm not going to learn the rules.
And this is why I learned the rules for
This is
everything.
why you have to learn the rules for all the games, and I feel
Yeah.
bad for you that way. But at the same time, like, I'm not that into board games, so I'm not going to choose a game where I have to learn the rules to it.
Right.
I'll choose a game I've played already, which is why we've played Wingspan multiple times and Villainous multiple times. But with Pret-a-Porter, we decided to learn the rules right when we were about to play the game. So that was a bit drawn out, and I think that maybe that influenced my experience with the actual gameplay.
Probably. I mean, I was learning it for like 3 hours, and then you were like making cookies upstairs.
No, I think I might have stopped to make cookies.
You're like, I'm
or,
just gonna go do something.
lying on the couch.
You're like
upside
cleaning the
down.
house, doing all the laundry, and I'm just reading this rule book, and I'm like, wow, this is a big mistake. I should have done this before.
Yeah, turned out to be a complicated game to play.
It was good, the game,
But
though.
once we played it, then I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. So I would have to play it a few times, I think, before I actually liked it. But that, I guess, really goes to show that the drawback is the learning curve of some of these more complicated games.
Right. Okay, so maybe with all this knowledge, we can give some tips or recommendations to people who have significant others like yourself to get them to play with me.
With you?
With me specifically. So what types of tips can we give people like who are like me and have a significant other like yourself to get them to play with?
Right.
Yeah,
Know
each
know
other.
your audience. So if you know that they like word games or they like acting games, then choose a game that involves that.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have like start with games I already like.
Right.
Like you already I know you like Scrabble, so I knew I could sell. I'm like a salesman. I know I could sell you Letter Jam.
Right. If you like this, then you'll like this.
Right. You like Clue, so I knew I could sell you Mysterium.
Mhm,
Although it was a little bit
exactly.
more complicated to play, you did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
think it was more complicated.
Well, you
to
played
play,
Dixit
actually.
too before we played it, so you
Dixit,
kind of had an
excellent
idea.
game, yeah.
And then, like, I know you like trivia games because when I was with your family, we would play this 1970s version of Trivial Pursuit where no one could ever get
The
any of the
original Jenna's edition.
no one could ever get any of the like acting questions right because this is like
It was
2000s.
so outdated.
But so I know, like, remember we played Geek Out?
Geek Out.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
was great. That was great because we did normally you do it by yourself, but we did teams, and that was super fun.
Yeah.
That was a party night. That was really fun.
Yes.
And they have lots of versions of that.
So yeah, so choosing games that are similar to games that you know that your significant other already enjoys. Being prepared, so knowing how to play the game. So if you show up to the table and say, "Hey, honey, I got a game to play," then make sure that you know how to play that game.
So on that note, I said, make sure you choose a game with quick setup.
The setup doesn't necessarily have to be quick, as long as I come downstairs and the table is already set up with the game on it.
I think like think about it like this, like the atmosphere. We're like, hey, what do you want to do tonight? Or like, let's play a board game. It's like you don't want me to be setting up the game for an hour because then that takes away
Right,
from
exactly. So if you set up the game in the afternoon and then you're like, hey, let's play this game tonight, then it's already ready to go.
Sounds like my Friday night thing.
Exactly. Like you plan out for your friends for Friday
Well,
night.
there's
You could do
always
the
a
same
game
for
set
your
up. You can
significant
always play one with me.
others. This is true. You do always have a game set
I
up.
do.
For
Sometimes
single
I have
player.
two. But anyways, the point is, if you have a game that's quick to set up, it's an easier sell.
Yes.
So if it's nothing's out there, like for instance, Mysterium Park is so easy to set up. Like I could toss it out right now. 5 minutes we could be playing.
Right.
Right. And then that goes along with your rules. Make sure the rule set's really easy.
Yes. Or be like fully like knowledgeable. Don't have to like reference back to the rule book multiple times.
Right. And we made a good point earlier too. If you're playing with, let's say you're playing with my friends and a bunch of us know how to play, it's going to be way easier for you to play.
Yes.
Like when we played Wingspan. several of us knew how to play Wingspan,
Yep.
it was easy to have you play Wingspan with us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's a good situation. If you have other friends who already know the game, then invite your significant other into the game that way, and it'll be more fun.
Yeah, and then the rule with that is lighter games are generally the ones you probably want to choose, like Mysterium Park, for instance. And then no one wants to wait around while you figure out the rules, which we talked about with
Exactly.
Pret-a-Porter.
Exactly.
What else?
So choosing the right theme
Oh,
that might appeal to your significant other.
yes, we did talk about that a little bit.
We did.
And I mentioned, like, for instance, you said you like anything cute, and Calico is a very good example if you like cats
Yeah.
or sewing.
Or sewing. Or Honey Buzz if you like cute things. Generally, I like
If you
cute
like
things.
books.
But if your significant other likes superheroes, then choose like the Marvel Champions or choose Unmatched or something.
Yeah, and then like I think everyone likes Disney, so like Villainous is a very good sell for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Although it does have a really long length. I mean, even when me and you played, it was over an hour. The more people you get playing, the longer it takes. If you remember when we played a 4-player game, it took us like 3 hours to get through it.
It took us a while, yeah, but it was so worth it.
Oh, I'm glad you like that game so much.
If you, yeah, or like, yeah, I guess the themed versions of games that already exist. So we have like a Harry Potter code names that you brought home for me, which was very exciting.
Oh yeah, that's one we forgot about. Yeah. We don't really play it though.
We played it a couple of times and it's actually kind of hard
Well,
because
it's
there's
a co-op.
images. There's not just,
Codenames is normally it's a team versus team, but that one is a co-op.
but also it's not just words. There's also pictures from
Right.
the movie. So then if you didn't see the movie, sometimes it's going to make it a lot harder
Yeah.
to figure out what you're trying to come up with.
I remember I wasn't very good with names. I'm good with pictures, so like some of the stuff I'm like I don't know what to say.
Right.
Whereas like you and it's funny because I read the books several times, and so have you. And I still don't know who the characters are when I look at them. I'm like, I don't know. Do the white hair.
But that
Bully
would be,
kid.
but that would be a good like selling feature for if you have a game that your significant other maybe already knows how to play, and just get them a version that's a theme that they like.
I have a friend who he's into board games moderately. I would say a little bit. Like him and his wife play board games over your level but below my level, and his wife really loves Harry Potter, and so they play a deck building game based on Harry Potter, and she loves it because she's a huge Harry Potter fan.
Right. I mean, Harry Potter people really just love anything Harry Potter themed, so
I mean, Harry Potter's the best.
it truly is.
Yeah.
It's truly magical.
Doesn't need real magic because it's magical. And then I also feel like don't push your significant other into playing a complicated game. Like for instance,
Pret-a-Porter.
yes, like I didn't technically push you to play that. I just kind of forced you to sit at the table when it was set up.
You just kind of like bound my hands behind my back and put me down beside the table.
Yeah. I knocked you out first, and I had to you woke up at the table, and Pret-a-Porter was set up.
And you still didn't know how to play it.
And I was eating all the cookies you made. Yeah, like don't. I guess when that came down to it, I'm like, I kind of described it to you, and I'm like, this would be a cool economy game, and you're like, yeah, okay, sure. Although now I'm hearing you're like, it didn't look the greatest, but it was an easier sell. But then like when I think about it, I'm like, well, the game was pretty complicated. It's sort of like you need your significant other to choose that game instead of you. So like, if I ever wanted you to play Root, which you could look at the shelf there.
Yeah.
Like there's cute animals on it, but
But that seemed like a really complicated game.
well, I think you hear us talk about it being complicated, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So that's not gonna no.
Yeah, so the minute, and that's the thing, right? Like, so I guess if you want your significant other to play Root, just don't keep saying how easy it is. Just tell them how easy it is. Like, oh, it's an easy game. It's the
So you're
easiest
just saying
game.
like dupe and deceive your significant other.
We gotta move on. No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to say the opposite. Like, they need to come to the conclusion that they want to play it, and then you just help them play it. If you're, at our levels, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Root was hard for me to learn.
I'm not sure which game I came to the conclusion I wanted to play. Can you recall?
Pret-a-Porter.
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
You think
you did.
You think so?
Yeah, you if you didn't want to play it, I wouldn't have forced you to play it. That's why you don't play a lot of these games.
I
in
think
the
that was
first
a bit of a
place.
sympathy play. I think because none of your friends had played it with you yet, and so I felt bad. So
Wow, you're the best significant other ever. I just actually felt really bad for you, so I went and baked cookies, learned the rules for 5 hours, and when I
Because
came down, you still didn't know how to play.
play it with me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll play it.
Biggest mistake of my life.
I'm pretty
There you
sure
go.
that's
You need
sympathy
you
play.
need you need some sympathy. You just
Yeah.
kind of like, oh.
Just feel like, oh, I need someone to play this brand new game with me. Who will do that?
Is that what I was like? So sad.
Probably.
Why do I sound so small? Am I like a little tiny person?
Yes, you shrink when you're sad.
Oh, really? Oh, that's crazy. All right. Well, I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome. Okay. Well, so there's some amazing advice from us.
We have great advice, everyone. Come to us anytime.
All right, so now you know how to convince your significant other to play some really great games. Make sure you use our tips and let us know how they worked. And just to recap that, choose games they already like, choose themes they like, choose games that they already know how to play, let them lead into the more complicated games, and try those out and tell us if they work. And definitely make sure you dupe them into playing a game there too. And look really sad.
Yes, pity is your final
Two main
ones.
option.
If nothing else works.
All right, so there you go. That's the conclusion of the podcast, but we're going to do something fun to end off here.
Of course we are.
Okay.
I love fun things.
Yeah, you look
I thought this whole thing was fun.
you
but
look like you're
apparently now, friends, we are reaching the fun part of the podcast.
No one can see me, my hands in front of me, caressing them. That's not even the right word. Is it? All right. Okay, so this is your chance, Samantha, to be funny.
Oh boy.
I'm going to name a game, and you're going to pretend to be me.
This is like role reversal.
Yeah, we're going to be role playing.
Are you sure this is not for therapy?
I don't know. Is Kevin a psychologist or is he an editor?
All of the listeners
Actually,
can be psychologists.
I hope so.
Okay.
So you're going to pretend to be me. So as me, how would you convince yourself, which will be me? I'll be
Right.
playing you. You'll be playing
Right,
me.
I get
How
it.
would you convince me to play these games?
Okay, got it.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay. Villainous.
A game about Disney villains for grown-ups.
Wow, I love Disney. But villains, I'm not a big fan of the villains. Are the other characters in the game? Like, is Cinderella in the game?
Cinderella is in the game.
Oh, really?
Yes. But you get to play as a villain. You get to be evil.
What about Pretty Princess? Can I go around collecting items?
No, but the meeples are beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Collect them all. Are they collector's items?
they are. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
I'm in.
collectible.
All right.
Yeah.
Convinced. All right. Letter jam.
Word scramble on crack.
No, I'm not into crack.
Are you into word scramble?
I am, but crack really didn't sell me. Calico.
Cats, quilts.
If I'm you, I don't really like cats.
But it's so cute.
Oh, quilts? Did you say quilts?
Quilts.
Is there buttons?
Buttons.
Oh, I love
Buttons.
buttons. Buttons are my favorite thing in the world. I wish I had a hat with giant buttons.
You-
I'm actually saying that because she has a hat with giant buttons on it.
Yeah, you get to make quilts, and the cats sleep on them.
You don't care about cats.
They're
If it was
so
dogs,
cute.
though, if it was dogs, you'd be buying like your own version of that game. The game.
It's co-op, so no unfriendly competition.
Oh, you mean I'm not going to get angry when Matt wins at like Domain?
Matt winning.
So funny about that. Dixit.
Trippy artwork. It's like apples to apples, but it's actually good.
Yeah, I'm in. That's a funny note because we played apples to apples together, and
Don't like
Dixit.
it.
Dixit is just like a way better game.
It's a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's because you use your imagination a lot more. Apples to apples, just words thrown down. Trippy though, I'm not really into drugs.
I feel the artwork is like has a dream-like quality to it.
I love sleeping. I sleep 12 hours a day.
Stop it.
And then the final one, Magic the Gathering.
There is a potential for a return on investment if you get the right cards and you don't touch them for 10 years.
Return on investment? Return on investment?
Yeah.
Oh, I love saving money. It is my favorite thing in the whole world. Let's do it.
You'll make money if you buy the right magic card.
But I just read today that prices fluctuate like crazy. It's more unstable than Bitcoin.
Okay, maybe you should stop buying magic cards then, Matt. I mean,
I'm not
Samantha.
mad. All right, well, I hope those liners will help. I feel like you should role play with your best friends and trying to get your significant others to play the game. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps you make fun of your significant other, too.
It really does.
And I did all mine improv, so Sam has no way. I just came up with that stuff off the top of my head, so. Did you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm not.
That was the most fun part of the podcast, right, everyone? Yay!
I like your sarcasm. Yeah, the 40 psychologists are writing down their notes right now. All right, so I just want to say thank you for being on the show, Samantha. It was a lot of fun being a guest co-host.
Thanks
with
for
me,
having me.
even though it took 2 years. Although that's not because it's just because that's just how long it takes us to do things.
It's just because John couldn't make it tonight, so I'm an emergency backup fill-in. Everyone,
we have a hard time getting like regular people on the show, and it's not because of their schedule, it's just because of our schedule. Like, we're planning and thinking, we're trying to make things work, and it just takes a long time.
You have a great podcast. I listen to every episode, and I'm not just saying
40
that.
times. Which gets us our numbers. Okay, so as a non-gamer, why should someone listen to Friday Night Games podcast?
Because their husband hosts it.
And you want to be supportive? That's a good answer. I like your answers. That's a really good one. But really,
I think I like when you guys talk about the gameplay experience more than the technical details of the game. I'm not really interested in that because when I come to play a game, you would have learned it already and have it already prepared on the table for me. So I don't need the technical details.
Oh, that's how we're gonna play. Guess we're playing Root this weekend.
But I do like when you guys talk about your gameplay experience and how different characters, and by characters I mean
Our
you and
friends.
your group of friends,
Yeah.
reacted to the game and how it went. So I think I always find that funny.
Yeah, it's definitely been more of a storytelling for John and I. We definitely take the group and then make them characters and tell the story of them, how they reacted, which is more entertaining than when they tell. Although it is funny when we get them on, because then they're like, that's not how that went down. And it's like, get out of your ego. Throw your ego down. So what could we do better to maybe make Friday Night Game podcast appeal to people like yourself?
Have me on more often.
Okay, well that's hard because usually you work late.
Have people on the show that are not experts in the board game. Can you get Jerry Seinfeld on the show? That guy's hilarious.
That guy is really funny. One time you asked me who my dream guest would be.
I know, I listened to that episode of your podcast.
I'll just shut up now. And this one's a little fun. If you had a podcast, what would it be about?
Well, I do have a podcast, which you would know if you listened to it.
That's a meditation podcast.
It's actually 10 episodes about yoga and philosophy, and it's called 5-Minute Insights.
Do I have to sleep on the ground tonight? I know the answer to that one. You don't have to respond. I'll get my pillow out of the room.
You can listen to the entirety of that podcast in less time than it would take you to learn how to play any of the games on your shelf.
Wow, look at that review.
But yeah, it's a much more serious podcast. And I haven't recorded that in a long time. It's just one season.
Probably has more listens than ours. All right. Well, Samantha, thank you for being on the show. I hope you had a lot of fun.
I did. Yay!
There's no sarcasm in there at all.
No, that's supposed to be the sound of like sound effects of people cheering in the background.
Oh, you want? Well, hopefully Kevin put that in. If not, it's just
If
gonna be
not,
a really
it's
awkward.
just often me going, yay!
It's a really awkward yay every now and then. Anyway, so thank you for being on the show, Samantha. Thank you for doing this and filling in for John on short notice. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I also love how prepared you were too. It was awesome.
Yeah, because I don't know much about board games, so I had to write some notes. Yeah, no, it's good times.
If you like what you hear, you can check out our podcast released every Friday. And you can follow us on Instagram at FridayNightGames_official, Twitter at FridayNightGMS, search us on YouTube, and check us out at our website at FridayNight.Games. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye. But I said my name's Samantha. Like, I don't like that.
Perfect.
Like, no,
It's
no.
great.
Can I at
No,
least say
no,
my
you
name's
can't.
Sam?
No,
Okay.
no. Kevin could cut your voice out, so it's great. Anyways, let's keep going.
No. We're
That
gonna-
was perfect.
You're
That was
gonna-
actually really good. I don't know. Look,